The celebrated Lex Luger Yokozuna match. Should we start this? These introductions are going to take a while. The entrances. There's no fast walking in the WWF on the top matches back in those days.
Well, we also have to decide where we're going to start, because before the match, there's the Japanese and U.S. national anthems, including Aaron Neville singing the national anthem.
Yeah, we ain't watching that. Yeah, they had a Japanese singer sing the Japanese national anthem, and then they had Aaron Neville sing the American national anthem, and he was a big wrestling fan. But let's start with the match itself, actually.
Okay, the tab at the bottom of the screen reads Yokozuna versus Lex Luger, WWE Championship. If you go to this, it is exactly 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 56 seconds into SummerSlam 93. 2 hours, 15 minutes, 56 seconds. Jim, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go to this now. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play now.
And the big zoom in shot. The anthems are over with. Randy Savage was out there. I think he introduced Aaron Neville, if my memory serves me correctly. And now, we can chat idly, because that's one thing. With anybody I managed, I always wanted the excitement level to be up when we walked into the arena, right? With the Midnight Express, Heavenly Bodies, anybody ever. There was no way to get the excitement level up, because Yoko was going to go the speed Yoko was going to go to the ring. Poor Fuji, his knees and ankles and everything, he was crippled at that point. So the way Yoko moved in the ring was fantastic, but it was a slow procession coming out the entranceway. I'll say that. It just and you see a racket on the right shoulder. It blocks my right side of my face from having anything thrown, so I can keep an eye at the left side, and that way I've got everything. Because we didn't have the big ramp off the big stage. We were putting people in all those spots back then. You see it? How many people would we have not been able to get in if we had that big stage and big ramp?
And it looks so much bigger, too, not having the ramp there. It looks like you have more people than you even have in there.
Well, I think that even makes sense. Yeah.
You can do the wide shot and see everything, and just, it looks better.
And, of course, the ceremonial Japanese handing of the flowers. Yoko's as Japanese as I am, but...
Where'd they get those girls?
In Detroit, I don't know. Casting somewhere? I've got no fucking idea. We flew in that day from fucking Regis and Kathy Lee. I didn't have time to see where they got the flower girls from. But see, we're a goddamn minute and a half into this thing. We've only got one of the participants in the ring. Yoko Tuna, by the way. Yoko Tuna. And Fuji has the ceremonial thing and the bucket and the whole 9 yards. And, it works for Yoko. It was a big fucking ceremonial thing, but it drags these days. The little tiny American flags, some budding Trumpers even then. The salt ceremony, the banning of the evil spirits. I watched Tojo Yamamoto do this when I was 12, and I was like, why the fuck is he doing that? And then I found out it was actually a real thing. I dare him to get Luger in the ring. Oh, wait. I forgot. What's Savage doing here?
Is he doing the ring announcing?
I don't know. I can't remember. Wait a minute. Hold on one second.
Do-rag Randy Savage, very cool. Cowboy hat Randy Savage, not so much. Jim has apparently disappeared.
Yes, he did. I went and checked the audio. He did announce Luger. They were trying to do everything. We can't even have Finkel introduce Luger. Let's have Randy Savage, beloved wrestling icon, introduce Luger. And see, look, I'm not knocking Lex. He looks like $1 million, but that's not a real smile. And he's not comfortable shaking everybody's hands. Look, he's fucking hyperventilating already. This is a big fucking moment that I think he knew deep down, he's not ready for this spot as a babyface. He's not going to be. It's not an Aaron Neville. He probably never heard an Aaron Neville record either. He's not comfortable or natural as a babyface. And this whole thing was built to give him all these outs. If he was over as a babyface, the outs would have worked. But the outs didn't work because yes, the people are cheering him because, he's a top babyface at that time and he's American against this evil heel, but they weren't going to back him at a Hulk Hogan level at that time. Am I saying that right? He just didn't. He didn't.
Yes and no. I think he was really over at this point in time because they had done so much on TV to pound it in that he's the big babyface. He body slammed Yokozuna on the Intrepid.
Yeah.
But again, 1993, there wasn't this major patriotic wave sweeping across the country.
In Vince's mind, there was.
Yeah, it was manufactured in that way. I mean, there was no big feud with Japan in 1993, let alone his feud with Ludwig Borga after this, which, again, another feud between the American and a country that no one cares about. But look at him. I mean, just look at his outfit.
Nope,
We've seen
Sam
Luger.
Fins. Yeah, and Lex looks better than he ever lived. He looks tanner and he's less body fat than even in the WCW days. But I just see a heel. I just see a heel when I look at him and everything he was good at. Dave Hebner, the referee.
Dave or Earl?
I'm sorry, Earl Hebner, the referee. What am I saying? Because Dave was an agent by this point. Dave was already an agent. Earl's refereeing here. That's great. I had to take a look. Dave got a little portlier at the end of things than Earl, and that's how I was able to tell them apart. Stare down here. I don't know what Lex is saying to him. Possibly, I'm going to run and hit the ropes. I don't know why there would be this level of one-sided conversation with the stare down. And of course, they love the spot where Mr. Fuji is going to sneak in. Like he's going to sneak in and do something like anybody believes this at this point. It is for Luger to catch him, and then here comes Yoko, and boom, and here we get started. They just started the match that way. It was a lot of contrivedness. I noticed this. I was still learning the WWF style at this point, and it seemed weird. But as you watch this go on, who do you think is going to be the guy that should blow up? Who do you think is going to be the guy that should slow down? It's not Yoko. I'm amazed at the athlete that he was. On commentary, they were talking about he started in the look at the ring did not move 600 fucking pounds minimum. On commentary, I was about to say they're saying, well, he was 450 in the WWF, but he could be more than that now. He was over 600 pounds at this point, and he would get by Survivor Series 3 years later, he'd get to 802. That's when they couldn't license him anymore and when he was done. But look at the way he can move. There was a world-class athlete buried underneath that, and if he had taken any care of himself, he would have had a longer career. He'd still be here. If he'd have stayed at this weight or even less, he may still be here.
I believe Luger has stated that at this period of time, he figured out a way around the WWF steroid testing policy.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. But look, Yoko, the Samoan family, look at the way he moves. A natural worker. He scoops the guy up and down. He's missing all these fucking moves, and he's back up to his feet. Poor Lex and his flat-footed, square-shouldered punch. At WrestleMania 94, when he jerked me in and I was going to take my big WrestleMania bump, he slingshots me in over the top, and he's going for the big right hand. I'm going to take a big bump. He punched me on the bicep, my left bicep, and I took his giant bump. But he couldn't fight. So I don't know that I would have done this match this way. I think I would have made it more the monster takes over early and put in mind that Lex is in danger, because the more he beat up Yokozuna to make him look like the new Hulk Hogan, and the more Yoko took it, I don't know that this did anything for Lex. I think he should have been in more trouble at the start and had a longer comeback at the end. However, he may have been so blown up by then. Anyway, boom, and there's a heel shot. And look, did you see the dainty bump where he put his hands back and caught himself? because that ring is so fucking. He was used to the WCW rings, and now it's like he's taking bumps on the fucking parking lot.
Yeah, that was a Dallas bump.
Yeah, you know what? That ring was worse than Dallas because Dallas had more padding, so it wouldn't give, but you could mire into it a little bit. But this was just fucking hard. Just fucking hard. I can't believe that every guy hasn't had a spinal surgery that worked there in the 80s.
Well, there's a reason why the guys had a WWF style in the 80s, and even though they worked that style, they're still coming down with injuries to this day.
And Luger foils the salt. And I don't, what that was all, that was, see, they just stuck these spots in when it didn't make any sense. Yoko had the referee, Fuji gets up to throw some salt, threw it over Luger's head. Now Luger's back to punching a man that's not going to take a bump. Tried to slam him, but he couldn't. You're right. And then a super kick by Yokozuna, and he got the foot pretty much up there. You're right about the whole WWF thing is that it just, and finally, it wasn't until, what was it, 97? It was 97, early 98 when I got them to change the fucking rings, when I found that spot show ring. And it was only the guys that really wanted to work hard and get over that would defy that frying pan of a ring, and then they wouldn't do it every night at the house shows. They just do it on TV or at the big shows where it counted. And that held it, but Vince didn't care. He thought they had the best rings in the business. I said, you got the cleanest. They're the fucking hardest. Vince didn't care about the matches. He sold the sizzle, not the steak. That's why the NWA house shows blew the WWF house shows away, and that's why we were able to stay up with them in the 80s. But now in the 90s, this is all WWF now. WCW was in the heart of the dark ages. They just gotten rid of Jim Herd, the previous year.
No, 93 WCW is not pretty.
Yeah. So now here's the thing. Now Luger's selling. He's, he's pretty much fucking shown and beat Yoko up for the first, 10 minutes of this thing. But now he's selling. But even though he's selling, he's doing everything he can to sell. It's not like Ricky Morton. There's this beautiful, perfect looking Greek god body. And it wasn't a natural thing for Lex to do.
And he's blown up. You could tell
he's blown up because, that's why I'm saying who would be the one you'd think blow up? Well, Lex had muscle training, not cardio training. And when you think about it, Yoko, being a world-class athlete and carrying that weight around, he did his cardio every time he walked to the car. But anyway, now at least we slow. And that's the thing. Yoko, what a fucking gimmick performer. And I don't even say that, in a slighting way. But he had a great gimmick, and he was the big guy that could do shit. And these bullshit punches just over and over of Lex's that he's not going to take a bump on, but Lex don't do anything else. And his punch looks like shit. That's another thing, that a top babyface that's been put upon like this, if he can't just draw back and punch the heel believably right in the face, people ain't going to get with him. They want to see the babyface be able to fucking fight, not goddamn do fancy shit. Now, see, he came off the top with a sledge, but notice the red, white, and blue elbow pad is over his. He really did have a steel plate because it was a motorcycle accident. It didn't hurt when he fucking hit guys with it, but boom, he comes off the top of the double sledge. Still okay. Vince loved this kind of big man stuff. I thought this was the one thing about Yoko's repertoire. He carried the staggering and standing still while stunned a little too far for believability for the baby faces to do this shit. But now he hits the fucking elbow, and even with the pad, that's when Yoko goes down. So there was sense to it.
Look at how hard Luger's breathing.
Yeah, I know. I haven't watched this match in its entirety since I got the tape, a couple weeks after it happened. But I see now the difference in the style was WWF style was all about milking and setting things up. And NWA style was all about the most important thing is, does it look real? Is like it's actually happening and we're thinking about it on the spot. And that's what it was a hard fucking transition to make when you went from one to the other. You either milked too much, did too much hokey shit, or you were going too fast for the rest of the fucking bunch. Boom, double knockout. And they're kind of going by the numbers here because Yoko is leading this. Lex is not at that point or ever got to be a psychological genius. But if it was Lex as a heel, it would be easier, I guess, as I've beat that point to death. But it just, and I'm like, is this going to be a double count out? Are they all gone? Are they, oh, that's when I have to draw the fucking referee's attention so Fuji can do something here. Yeah. Oh, and the bucket, he missed the bucket toss. And let's face it, we all loved Fuji and everybody respected Fuji and what a worker and what a bumper he was in his day, but he's nearly crippled at this point. And they kept him around because he was part of the old guard and gave him things to do. But I think it kind of hurt his feelings. And that's why I felt bad when I came in and took the promos away. But they needed somebody that could cut the fucking promos. It was a new day. It wasn't the 80s where there was 7 managers and Fuji had, one of the heels. This is the heel. Anyway.
Were you told anything about what they wanted you to do or not do at ringside?
No, the only, hold on, is this, no, and no. I was afraid that was going to be the finish. I didn't want to talk through the false finish. No, obviously you did not interfere unless you were told to beforehand. I had the friend Smoky Mountain. I could do whatever I wanted. I was the boss. But even for Crockett, I would take shots when the guys would feed me because we'd be making it up as we went along. And every once in a while, if it was somebody like, the Steiners, like I did in that early match, he fed me or the boys set it up, I'd take a shot. But you didn't interfere to any extent unless you were told to ahead of time. The managers just had much less to do and were figured into the finishes much less in the WWF than in WCW. And the managers' gimmicks, as you just saw, weren't used a lot or didn't work as much as the WCW or NWA matches. So all in all, it was, you're just standing there a lot. And especially, when Yoko was wrestling Earthquake, there wasn't a lot for me to do anyway. A 600-pound guy wrestling a 450-pound fucking guy. It was going to be slow as molasses in January, regardless of what. Anyway, so no, unless I was specifically figured into the finish or into a heat spot or something, I just, especially for the first while I was there, until I got more comfortable and knew what the fuck was going on with everybody, I just stood and watched. And then, every once in a while, one night it was Vader, Bulldog, and Owen against Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson and somebody else. And there came a point where Shawn was laying there selling and Davey and Owen were looking around and the referee was over with the baby faces and nobody was doing anything. I said, fucking switch. So Davey and Owen switch without tagging and to get some heat on Michaels. Michaels looks over at me. Hey, I'm calling this match. Well, go ahead and do it then, motherfucker. I just chimed in because it was deader than a fucking doorstop. Anyway, back to this match. Yoko on Luger. Again, this match was somewhat long, but they wanted to make, because all the rest of the matches back in those days on pay-per-view were even shorter in the WWF, so they wanted to make this match the world title match, the Epic. And, look at Yoko's just amazing, and he planted Lex flat. Yoko didn't lose control of himself at this weight. He didn't lose control of himself, a very close false finish and a turn of the shoulder. I don't like those shoulder turns in the big buildings because people don't see it and they don't get it. And there was no big screen at this point, so they couldn't really see it. Where was I going with that? What I was saying beforehand.
The way Yoko can move.
The way Yoko can move and he would plant guys good. It wasn't until he gained another 50 or 100 pounds that's when he started not being able to control himself. The rock bottom he did at Survivor Series on who fucking was it? I can't even remember now, but it was goddamn brutal. In Indianapolis one night after he'd switched babyface, he got a half a step off on a leg drop on me and sat on my head. It's why I have neck problems this day. And afterwards, he's like, brother, I'm sorry. I got to step off. That's okay. It just cracked 7 times in quick succession. But it was sad that he got to where he couldn't do what he was doing here. And now I think they're getting everybody's goddamn breath so that they can go into this rousing close here. And you always have to grab a hold and give the people a chance to get behind the baby face, give the heel manager a chance to wave the flag. And now Lex can reach up and show some life. So this is a good place for it, but as the welcome is starting to be worn out, I believe they should get going. What else can we talk about during these slow spots? Good Lord.
The only way a match like this works with this length is if Luger wins via pinfall, not via count.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But that's the thing is they did everything from the special ring announcer and the special entrances and the Lex Express and they built everything, including the length of the match and the giant celebration afterwards, as smoke and mirrors to make it look like Lex Luger was the most popular wrestling star in the world. But in Vince's mind, he couldn't go for the slam. And is this going to be it? And no. In Vince's mind, all these things were outs and excuses and bonuses and things that would smoke and mirrors that would cover it up. But he did not. He underestimated the fact that the people, once they saw the finish, the ultimate thing was, did you win the belt or not? No, he didn't. And they lost a lot of fucking interest. And see, now, at this point, I wish they'd just get to it. And that's what I was kind of thinking at ringside also. At this point, I wish they'd just get to it. Because when I'd heard the finish earlier that day, I'm like, I don't see how we're going to fucking pull this off. And it worked as temporary insanity in the building, as you'll see with the people cheering. But already, as soon as we heard the feedback from the pay-per-view broadcast, it was like, he didn't win? Anyway, nice little fucking slut swing. Or sweat sling. Did I say slut swing? Sweat sling on Luger, and he's going for the bonsai drop, which has caused curtains for many of them, but boom, and once again, Yoko's ass cheeks bounced better than the ring did. 600 pounds coming down on that fucking cast iron frying pan. And Yoko had great facials, too. And the way he said, and Luger, with modernized, Luger's selling like Ricky Morton, because you never see anybody do it right anymore. Look at the facial expression on him. Also, he really is blown up. So, but now here is where Lex needs to be having his fire and making his comeback. And I think he's blowed for it. They're going to try to do the hook up. But it needs to see it just more of the same flat-footed punch that he was throwing earlier that didn't work. This is where I think the style clash was. Luger's offense on Yoko. Everything of Yoko's looked good that he did. Everything of Luger's looked good that he did to other people. It just his offense on Yoko. He didn't know what else to do with the guy because he was so big. And now Yoko's starting to suck wind too. And also back then, also in those days, Yoko had the fucking mindset, as did all the top guys. If I'm not going to win this fucking match, I'm going to kick the shit out of this guy before it happens to make sure I don't fucking look weak. And boom, and there's the miss. He'd move the ring with it. Now here's the slam, but he didn't get under him. Got it. Yoko went up for it, but it's the same thing we saw with somebody else. Oh, the power slammer. You don't get under the guy first. You can't move the weight. Poor old Fuji. I hated when they asked him to take a bump because that's all he could do was just go down and lay there, but he's keeping the referee. Luger takes the pad off. Boom, hits Yoko in the face with the fucking loaded elbow from his surgery. And the referee's not supposed to see it, but Luger can't get the fucking pad back on. Look, he takes 5 minutes to put the fucking pad back on. See, he can't get it right. And the referee's looking, what the fuck? So I come, hey, referee. And now, well, I'll take my apron bump. Boom, even with the bad neck. What do you think, Brian? Come on, look at the pink shoes. Give me some credit.
You did good. That punch by Luger was awful.
I know, and he didn't do any better at WrestleMania the next. And now look, for a second, people were like, yeah, and then all of a sudden it starts getting more tepid but wait, he didn't win the fucking belt. they're searching for these poster shots, but you start seeing some of the people go, wait a minute, hold on. And so this was another thing with Vince, is that Macho Man out. And then they send the Steiners out, the hometown heroes, and everybody's going to carry, and Tatanka even. And everybody's going to carry Luger off on their shoulders to disguise this, but it didn't do him any good. But like I said before, if they had put the belt on him, there'd have been more heat on him than there was, because it would have flopped. And that's not knocking Lex. It's just you can't miscast people. Vince saw the body and thought he was going to be the next Hogan. But that is a nice, pretty shot of the palace at Auburn Hills.
Yeah.
And when did they drop? Didn't they drop balloons? Aren't balloons coming?
Well, things are starting to drop right now, it appears.
Well, yeah, because, enthusiasm. I'm still checking on Fuji. Yoko's still on the floor. I'm like, well, now this is another new thing. I'm like, how long are we supposed to fucking sell here? Because I was used to the NWA and then Smoky Mountain. We got the fuck out of there while the people were distracted celebrating the baby faces so nobody would attack us. So I'm like, can we get the fuck out of here? Yoko's still supposed to sell, brother. Here come the balloons.
Pat Patterson by the back there.
Boy, I'll tell you what. And this goes on until everybody in the building realizes, they tell him on the broadcast that, well, he's not the champion. Heenan brings that up and Vince says, well, he's gonna be, he's like, wait till he gets him again. Because that's what in his mind he was thinking. When he gets a rematch, he'll be the champion. He's done what nobody has ever done. He's taken down Yokozuna. And what a fucking scene. And this buried Lex Luger. That celebration, that scene pretty much buried Lex Luger. If he'd have won the belt and it had been in a goddamn rec center with no budget, he would have been over.
And again, it goes right from this into a feud with Luger and Ludwig Borga, which no one wanted to see.
Yeah, not even the people that were in it wanted to see that. Questions on this Titanic confrontation?
Geez, I don't know. I had enough time to ask you them in the middle of some of those.
Yeah, you sure did. See that? They ain't all winners, folks, just because they're old. But a lot of that stuff, can you imagine how much money you could make with a Yokozuna today? Because there's nobody like him. If a guy that can work like that size, that was believable and would fuck you up. And Jacob Fatu is half the size, but he can do twice as much shit. And that somebody hadn't figured him out besides Court Bauer is a shock to me.
Well, we've talked about why he hasn't been signed by WWE before, but let me ask you.
Oh, fuck, so he can't go to Canada. No, neither can any other American these days.
Let me ask you, because right now,
he robbed a fucking bank.
I still have it playing. It's Lex Luger on the Lex Express.
Yeah, I stopped it already.
Driving all over the country. They showed a clip from the Intrepid. You brought up how he didn't get under Yoko and slam him at SummerSlam. Did anyone ever get under Yoko and slam him well?
Well, he never let anybody else, did anybody else slam Yoko? But this whole thing was built around the slam challenge and Luger winning it, which is how on the 4th of July on a American battleship against the evil Japanese menace, which is how that they switched him babyface. I'm trying to think, did he even do a slam angle with anybody else?
I don't think he did a slam angle with anyone.
Yeah, well, or did let anybody else slam him? That would have been an angle if he'd have let somebody else slam him. I don't think, and okay, now everybody out there is going, oh, he's pissing off Luger, or pissing on Luger because he didn't get under him. I'm not saying that it was Luger's fault. Yoko could go up good enough that if you got under the weight, Luger, that in that position, he could have turned him, but he wasn't quite under him. Maybe he had too much faith in his own fucking lifting power, but if he'd have fucking bent his knees a bit and been a bit lower where Yoko could have got right up over that waistline, then he could have got under him and turned him. It's not a case of can you lift him or not. This is science and physics when you're trying to do something like that with that much weight. And that's why the Gargano power slam fuck up. It's a 200-pound guy, but the weight coming down and towards you when you're not under it with your balance, even that much weight can throw you off. So it's not who's strong or who's weak. It's who goes up properly and an opponent, a dance partner that has the timing to get in the place they need to be while they have their balance while the guy's up there. I mean, some guys are lighter than Crusher Darso in Louisiana. When he was every bit of 300 pounds, I could pick him up for a slam and hold him for 5 seconds. That's how fucking good he was. It wasn't me, but it just depends. Anyway.
Here's Luger at Mount Rushmore. I've seen Luger at the Yankee game. A picture of Luger in an Uncle Sam outfit on a flyer that says, "I want you."
I remember that one.
They really went, again, there was no big patriotic push in the country in 1993. And this is where Vince went with Luger. There had to be something else you could have done.
Well, the thing is, he didn't get to do his patriotism back in, 91 with the Gulf War with Sergeant Slaughter, so he did the patriotism 2 years later. He didn't get to do his big patriotism. They did the patriotism at the sports arena, not the Coliseum.
Yeah. Well, there it is, Lex Luger and Yokozuna.
All right, but we said we were going to have fun today, and we had some fun.
We did.